Hey guys, welcome back to BackPocketGameReviews. By the way, if you're new here to the channel, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Actually, it's probably right down here. And don't forget to click that bell if you really enjoy the videos. It'll let you know when I upload. Sometimes. And also, if you like the video, don't forget to drop a thumbs up. Those thumbs up help me grow the channel. So, Rich of ReviewTechUSA is wrong again. And boy, oh boy, does that shock me? Not really. So, and there's two things he's drastically wrong about, and both of those things, again, involve Nintendo. So, I'm in no way a Nintendo fanboy. I'm all for being skeptical and calling companies out when they're wrong. But Rich should have done a little more research. Actually, keep in mind too, I don't dislike ReviewTechUSA. I'm just kind of shocked at the misinformation that was really put into the videos. So, the first one was he stated that Nintendo hasn't really had third-party support since the N64, and that's a big part of the reason why Nintendo hasn't done well, is that they lost third-party support. Well, that's wrong. While I do agree Nintendo has never had third-party support, nor has third-party support ever been their big concern. The big thing Nintendo does is they make quality games. Now, a lot of you might be like, oh, but you're wrong. They've always had great third-party support. So, out of the top 15 games, actually, it's even worse if we go to the top 30. Because, the top 30, I'm pretty sure it's still, 25 of them are still Nintendo published games. Nintendo published games on the N64. The top 25 of them are Nintendo published. We're 6 to 15, just so I don't have to recount again. But out of the top 15, that's right. 13 of them are Nintendo on the N64. Actually, technically, one of them's rare, and it's Diddy Kong Racing. So that was just them contracted by Nintendo because they had an exclusive third-party development rights with Nintendo at the time. So now if we go over to the Super Nintendo and we do the top 15, 11 of those were published by Nintendo, and it just keeps going. Most of the big games are Nintendo. Nintendo's draw to a Nintendo console are the Nintendo games. Now, a lot of people reference the Wii U and say, oh, well, the Wii U failed because it didn't have third-party support. No. The Wii U failed because it maybe has 8 really big Nintendo games on it. It was out for a decent amount of time. Its lifespan was about as long as what the SNES was. Probably about 3 or 4 years. But now, if I were to pull up a list of the Super Nintendo stuff for you, obviously, again, 11 big titles. I mean, there's more. There's even more that are made by Nintendo. Out of the top 20, I would probably say it's 15 of them are Nintendo. It's pretty damn good. Couldn't find the NES one, but I'm going to go ahead and assume it's the same trend, and I already know it is for the GameCube one. And if we look at the Wii one, we had an insane amount of third-party support. And you may even argue, oh, well, that's why it succeeded. No, it was Nintendo games again, because if you look at the third-party support on the Wii, most of it was shovelware that no one gave a rat's backside about. Nintendo games sell Nintendo's consoles. The Wii U just didn't produce enough games as quickly as what they needed. It's a big part of the reason why you hear Nintendo saying they're now switching their publishing strategy, and they're going to be putting out more games for the Switch than what they normally put out for the Wii U or the 3DS. So they're just going to pump this thing with games. But if I pull up the 3DS for you, a huge chunk of its best-selling games are Nintendo games. That's what Nintendo does. They make good quality games that draw the customers into their console. So, it's kind of why Xbox originally made an offer to Nintendo to buy them, shut down the hardware, and just have them make games for the Xbox. Yeah, before the Xbox came out, Microsoft made that offer. Nintendo didn't think they were serious. I mean, they offered them billions. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of B's in there. Billions. Just one B is enough to make you just be like, what? So, that's issue number one. I'm sure a lot of you would agree with me on that. Most people who buy a Nintendo console buy it for Nintendo games. Secondly, he just recently did a video showing off a clone console. He talks about how good this clone console is and how it's a competitor for the SNES Classic. What? So the difference here is a clone console versus the SNES Classic. I actually did a video a while back breaking down how much it would cost you to buy an SNES plus all of the games. We used GameStop's prices, by the way. That was a pretty good video, and it was insanely expensive. Like, we're talking in the thousands expensive. So, that's pretty good for Nintendo to sit there and be able to go, yeah, we included thousands of dollars worth of games. Do you want to buy this clone console, which might feel good and feel accurate to the Super Nintendo, but it'll never feel like the original because Nintendo made it, and Nintendo made the SNES Classic to those specs. Controllers feel like the original specs. It feels like you are playing the original games. They're also not just emulators. They are full-out reworked games by Nintendo to make sure it works with the modern hardware. Well done. Also add save points, stuff like that. No, the clone console doesn't really have that. Now, granted, you can get more games for the clone console, but I don't have thousands of dollars to drop on retro games. Even if you add an HDMI port and give me the capability of plugging in original Super Nintendo controllers, if I buy an original Super Nintendo controller, it's still going to be used. So it's still going to be crap. If I buy a new one, I'm going to be bankrupt. So you can't compare and say that a clone console, which has to take the cartridges of the original, is a competitor to what Nintendo did there. You could say the Sega Genesis Flashback console is a competitor to the SNES Classic. The Genesis has so much potential. Sega, please just make one yourself. Take it away from Matt Games. But I really hope Richard ReviewTech just spends a little more time kind of researching his topic before just blurting it out. By the way, I absolutely love his new format change. It's very similar to the one I use here. I just don't have TVs behind me. He also uses a much more expensive camera. But I was just very shocked to see him use those arguments. They seemed like terrible arguments and terrible comparisons. So please just be more cautious with what you're comparing and think of it at the wider perspective. You're comparing literally a taco to a hamburger. I mean, like, full out comparison. But guys, thanks for watching. Stick around. I'll have plenty more content coming for you, and I'll see you soon.